The snow was falling hard when Elias returned to his mountain cabin. Wind howled between the tall pine trees and his boots sank deep with every step. He carried a heavy bag of supplies on his back, cans, firewood, and warm clothes. It had taken him 3 days to reach the nearest town and come back. He was tired. He just wanted to get inside, light the fire, and rest. But as he reached the door of his wooden cabin, he froze. The door was open. Just a little. He remembered clearly. He had locked it before leaving. Now, cold wind pushed it back and forth, making it creak. Elias stepped inside slowly. His breath turned white in the air. The fireplace was warm. There were ashes, fresh ones. Someone had used it. He dropped his bag by the door, alert. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. He scanned the small living room. Nothing looked broken, nothing stolen. But on the table was a half-eaten piece of bread. It wasn't his. Then he saw them footprints, small, bare. They led from the fireplace, across the room, and vanished near the hallway. Elias crouched. The prints were strange. The toes were too long. The shape was too thin. These weren't human feet. His heart beat faster. Someone, or something, was in his cabin. He moved slowly, carefully toward the hallway. He opened the bathroom. Empty. The closet. Empty. Only one room left, his bedroom. He stepped in. The window was shut. The bed was untouched. Still. Something felt wrong. He stood still and listened. Then he heard it. A breath. Quick. Quiet. Scared. Coming. From under the bed, Elias knelt down and looked. At first he saw only darkness, then eyes, glowing pale blue, wide with fear. A shape curled up tightly beneath the bed. Small, thin, female, alien. She looked no older than 20, her skin pale with soft scale-like patterns. Her long white hair was messy and dirty. She wore a torn gray cloth that barely covered her. Her body shook as she stared at him. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Elias didn't move either. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. She said nothing. He backed away slowly and stood up. "I'll go make tea," he added, and then he left the room. He lit the fire again, placed a kettle on it, sat down on the floor away from the door where she could see him. He waited. 10 minutes passed. Then he heard soft steps. When he looked up, she was standing near the hallway, still shaking, still afraid, but watching. He reached slowly and placed a cup of tea on the floor between them. She didn't come forward. He didn't speak. They sat in silence, watching the fire. She moved after 20 minutes. Without a sound, she stepped forward, took the cup, and backed away. Her hands were trembling. She sniffed the tea, then sipped it. Elias said nothing, just watched. She drank slowly, carefully, like she hadn't had warmth in a long time. That night, Elias set up the guest bed in the corner. He placed clean blankets on it. He placed a loaf of bread on the table. Then he turned off the lights and laid down on his own bed. He didn't hear her move, but when he opened his eyes an hour later, she was gone from under the bed. She was curled, up asleep in the corner, blanket over her. Snow kept falling outside, and for the first time in a long time, Elias didn't feel alone. Elias woke early. Snow still fell outside, soft and endless. The sky was gray. Wind howled through the cracks of the cabin, but inside the fire still burned low. He turned his head slowly. The corner bed was empty. Blankets gone. He sat up fast and looked around. The teacup from last night was still on the table. The bread had been eaten, all of it. But the girl was nowhere in sight. His eyes moved to the hallway. Silence. No footsteps. No sound. He stood and checked every room again. Bathroom, closet, porch. Nothing. Then he paused and crouched. Tunchi was back under the bed, curled tightly again, arms wrapped around herself, her face buried in her knees, like she had never come out. But Elias knew better. She had. She had slept in the bed. She had eaten the bread. And now, She was hiding again. He sat beside the bed. Not too close. Just close enough for her to hear. You came out last night, he said softly. That's okay. No reply. I'm not angry. You can come out again. I'll stay here if you want. Still no reply. So he sat. Minutes passed, he heard her breathing, nervous, shaky. I'm Elias, he said. I live here, I built this cabin. More silence. Then a whisper. So soft he almost didn't catch it. Laura. His eyes widened. She had spoken. Laura, he repeated gently. That's your name? She didn't answer again, but he saw. Her shoulders shift just slightly. A small nod. He smiled. I am glad to meet you, Laura. Later that morning he made food. Soft potatoes boiled with salt. He placed a bowl on the floor by the fire, then sat down at the table far away. He didn't look at her. He didn't rush, just waited. 10 minutes later, she crept out, quiet as a shadow. She took the bowl and sat on the floor near the fireplace, hugging the warmth. She didn't speak, but she ate slowly, watching Elias with caution in her eyes. Elias stayed still. When she finished, she put the bowl down and walked back to the shadows. Back under the bed. The same thing happened the next day, and the next. Each time she came out, a little sooner. Each time she sat a little closer. She never looked him in the eye, but she no longer ran when he moved. On the fourth day, Elias placed a small brush beside the tea. He said nothing. Later, he found it gone, and the next time she came out, her hair was neater, not clean yet, not smooth, but no longer tangled and wild. That night he smiled. She was trying, but something still haunted her. Elias saw it in her eyes, every time the wind howled, every time a branch tapped the window, every time he lit the fire too fast or dropped something by accident. She flinched. Her whole body shook like she expected pain, like pain was normal for her. One evening, while she sat near the fire, Elias stood up to put more wood in. He stepped too close. She gasped and scrambled backward, almost falling. Elias froze. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean to scare you. She looked away, biting her lip. He knelt slowly and set the log down gently. Then he sat on the floor, far from her. I won't come near unless you want me to. Her hands trembled, but she nodded. That night he left a soft wool scarf near her, for in the morning it was wrapped around her neck, and for the first time, she looked at him. Not for long, but long enough. Her eyes were sad, tired, but not afraid. She was still hiding, but not from him anymore. She was hiding from the world. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe this small cabin deep in the snowy mountains could be a place where no one would hurt her. Days passed. Snow kept falling. Laura still didn't speak much. Not in full sentences. Only a word here and there. Mostly she stayed silent. But Elias didn't mind. He spoke gently, telling stories while he chopped firewood or cooked meals. He told her about his dog who once lived here, about the big storm last year, about the day he decided to live far from everyone. She listened quietly, sitting near the fireplace. Always quiet, always watching. She was like a ghost, but slowly becoming human again. She still flinched at loud sounds, still froze when he got too close, but she stopped hiding under the bed. Now she claimed a corner of the cabin as her space. She slept on the guest bed, ate from her own bowl, wore the scarf every day. And Elias noticed something. She mimicked him. When he folded his blanket, she folded hers. When he stirred soup, she copied the motion with her spoon. Even when he yawned, she yawned a few seconds later, like a child learning to be someone else. One morning, Elias sat at the table with an old book in hand. He looked up and found her staring at it, curious. He smiled and pushed the book toward her. It's a story, he said. She touched the pages like they were made of glass, slowly turned them. Her eyes moved, unsure. "You know these letters?" he asked gently. She gave a tiny nod. So he opened to the first page and read aloud. He read a short children's tale about a bird learning to fly again after its wings were hurt. Her eyes stayed on the page. She said nothing, but when he closed the book, her hands didn't let go. She kept it that night. That evening, as Elias cleaned dishes, he heard something soft behind him. A sound. He turned. She was humming, very low, very soft, almost like a whisper. But it was a tune, not words, just a feeling. And it was the most beautiful thing he had heard in weeks. "Was that a song?" he asked, drying his hands. She stopped, looked nervous, then nodded once. "You sing?" She looked away. "I'd like to hear it again sometime." Laura hugged her scarf tighter and walked back to the fire. The next night she left something for him. It wasn't much, just a small stone, round, smooth, blue. She placed it on the table beside his cup and didn't say a word, but Elias understood. She was thanking him. He began leaving little gifts too. A fresh piece of cloth, a warm pair of socks, a wooden comb. She accepted each one with careful hands. Sometimes she nodded, sometimes she didn't. But slowly, piece by piece, she became part of the cabin, like she belonged there. But something still lived in her eyes. Fear, not of him, something else, something far away. One night she stood at the window and stared into the snowy woods. Her fingers gripped the curtain tightly. Elias watched her from behind. "Are you waiting for someone?" he asked softly. She shook her head, but her hands were shaking again. Elias didn't push. He just stepped into the kitchen and started boiling tea. As he placed her cup near the fire, she finally spoke. A full sentence. Quiet. Broken. "They hurt, many. Before me." Elias froze, then slowly sat across from her. "I'm sorry," he said. Laura looked down. She added, "I was taken, sold, returned. Many times." His heart ached. He didn't ask who took her, or how many, or what they did. She was here now, that was all that mattered. "You're safe here," he said. "No one will hurt you again." She looked at him, longer this time, then gave the smallest, softest smile. It didn't last, but it was real. And Elias knew. Her voice was broken, but not lost. She was learning how to live again, not by running, but by staying. It happened on a quiet evening. The fire was soft and the wind outside had finally calmed after days of snow. Elias was sewing a torn jacket. Laura sat by the fire, her scarf wrapped around her shoulders, staring into the flames. She had been speaking more these past few days. Simple words, short answers. But never about her past. Never about the pain. Until that night. She reached out to stir the soup pot. The scarf slipped from her shoulder and Elias saw it. His hands froze. Her arm, thin and pale, was covered in deep, faded scars. One ran across her elbow. Another near her wrist. Some were sharp like blades. Others were round, burned in place. Elias didn't say anything, but Laura noticed. Her eyes widened. She quickly pulled the scarf back up, then stood, backed away from him, shaking. "It's okay," Elias said quietly, raising both hands. "I didn't see anything, I'm not angry." But she was breathing fast. She stepped back to the corner of the cabin, hugging herself tightly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. Tears filled her glowing eyes. "I'm used," she said. Elias stood, but didn't come close. "I don't care where you've been," he said. "I care that you're here, safe." She looked down. "I was returned," she whispered. "Many times I couldn't cook, couldn't clean right, I cried too much, they called me broken." Her voice cracked. Elias's heart broke a little with every word. He slowly walked to the table, picked up a cup, poured tea, placed it near her side of the fire, then stepped back. "I made extra," he said gently. "If you want." She didn't move right away, but after a long minute, she walked over, sat down, and took the cup. The room was quiet again. The only sound was the soft crackle of fire. She took a slow sip. "I thought you'd yell," she said. "I don't yell," he replied. "They always did. When I was too slow or too quiet." "You're not in that place anymore," she looked up. "Where am I?" "In my home," Elias said. "And it's your home too if you want it." She stared at him for a long time. Then, very slowly, she pulled her sleeve back down, not to hide the scars but to show them. All of them, her arms, her back, her side. Each line was a story, a memory, a wound that had never healed. Elias looked, but not with fear, not with judgment, only pain in his eyes, and "Respect, you survived all this," he said. She nodded. "I didn't want to," she whispered. "But you did." She nodded again. And then she started to cry. Real tears. Not silent. Not hidden. Loud, broken sobs that shook her whole body. She cried into her scarf, her knees, her hands. Years of pain pouring out, and Elias sat there, saying nothing, just listening. When she was done, she looked up, eyes red, voice shaking. "Why are you kind to me?" she asked. Elias smiled gently. "Because someone should have been a long time ago." That night, she didn't sleep in the guest bed. She curled up near the fire, close to where Elias sat, not touching, but near, like a wild animal learning trust, like a broken soul finding its first shelter. The scars would stay. But now, they didn't define her, because now she was Lura, the survivor, not the slave. A quiet night fell over the mountain. Elias sat near the fire, writing something in his old leather notebook. Lura lay curled on the rug, her head resting on a pillow. She looked peaceful now, more than he'd ever seen her. For once, there were no flinches. No gasps, just the slow rise and fall of her breathing. Elias smiled, but then, the cabin light flickered, just once. Then again. He looked up. The fire still burned. The wind had stopped. But the flickering wasn't from inside. It was coming from outside. Through the fogged window, Elias saw it, a glow, strange and shifting. Purple, green, then blue. Not from any lantern. Not from Earth. He stood quickly. Lura didn't move, but when the light grew stronger, she sat up fast. Eyes wide, her whole body went still. "Lura?" Elias said softly. "What is that?" She didn't answer. She was shaking. Then she whispered, "They found me." Before Elias could ask more, she grabbed her scarf and crawled to the far wall. She pressed her ear against the wood. Then she looked at him, pure fear in her glowing eyes. "Hide me," she said. "Please." He didn't hesitate. He rushed to the kitchen and pulled up the loose floorboard. Beneath it, a crawl space, cold and narrow, but hidden. He helped her down gently, covered her with blankets, replaced the board, then stepped back. Minutes later, the knock came. A cold, sharp knock. Elias opened the door slowly. Two tall beings stood, outside dressed in black armor, faces hidden behind glass masks. Symbols marked their chest plates. They didn't speak. One held up a hologram. It showed Lura, her old, wild look, dirty hair, chains. "Have you seen this fugitive?" one asked. In a robotic voice, Elias blinked slowly. "Never seen her," he said. "What's she done?" "She is property," the voice said. "She escaped from her owners. She is dangerous." Elias frowned. "I live alone," he said. "No one's come here for months. You're welcome to look around if you like." The soldiers paused, then stepped forward. They searched the cabin, bedroom, kitchen, porch. They even looked inside the fireplace. But they didn't check under the floor. Elias stood still, calm but ready. His heart pounded like thunder. One soldier turned to him. "If you see her, report immediately." "Of course," Elias lied. They walked back into the snow. The ship, massive and shaped like a claw, lifted off slowly, vanishing into the clouds. Only silence remained. Elias shut the door, then ran to the kitchen, pulled up the floor. "Laura," he whispered. "It's okay. They're gone." Her hands reached up first, then her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You lied to protect me," she whispered. "Of course I did," Elias said. "You're not theirs." She crawled out slowly, shivering. Not from cold, but from memory. "I've never been safe before," she said. "You are now." That night she didn't sleep near the fire. She lay in the bed, not alone, not trembling. And Elias sat nearby, keeping watch through the window. Because danger had found them once, it might come again. But this time, she wouldn't be alone. The next morning the sky was gray. Laura sat near the fire, hugging her knees. Her scarf hung loose on her shoulders. Her glowing eyes were tired but calm. Elias brought her warm tea and sat across from her. "You didn't sleep much," he said. She shook her head. "I dreamed of chains again." He didn't push. He simply waited. Finally, she looked up. "I never told you my name," she said. "You didn't have to," Elias replied. "But you should know." He leaned forward, listening. She took a breath. "My full name is Laurantai Veldikari. I was not always a slave." Elias blinked. The name sounded royal, alien, and powerful. Laura nodded as if reading his thoughts. "I was born into the house of Dikari, a noble family. But when war came, my house was betrayed. The palace was destroyed. My guards were killed. I was taken." Elias sat in silence. She continued, voice quiet, almost shaking. "I was only 13 when they sold me the first time. I was passed from planet to planet, owner to owner. Some wanted a servant, others worse." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry this time. "I escaped 4 times. Every time they found me, beat me, returned me. And now?" Elias asked softly. "This was the 5th escape," she whispered. "I didn't think I'd survive the snow." Elias leaned closer. "You're safe now. I meant that." She looked at him, eyes wide. "Even if they come again, I'll fight for you." She stared for a long time, then finally said, "You don't even know what I am." "You're Laura," he said simply. "That's enough." Later that day, Elias went out to chop firewood. When he returned, Laura was waiting at the door with something in her hands. It was a small crystal, pale purple, glowing softly. "What's that?" he asked. She held it close to her chest. "My bloodline crystal," she said. "It proves who I am." "Why give it to me?" "Because if they catch me, and I die, you'll have proof." He shook his head. "You're not going to die." "But," she pushed the crystal into his hand. Her fingers lingered, warm, gentle. "I trust you," she said, "even if I don't understand why." That night she sang for the first time, really sang. Her voice was deep and otherworldly, soft like falling snow, glowing with pain and hope. Elias listened with his eyes closed, and for a moment the cabin wasn't just a shelter. It was a home, but far above, in the black sky beyond the clouds, a ship hovered, silent, watching, tracking, an old signal, one left behind by the crystal Laura had just given away. The sky turned red at sunrise. Elias stood outside chopping the last of the winter wood. Snow crunched under his boots. The air was sharp and cold, but inside the cabin, Laura was warm, wrapped in blankets, holding the firestone he gave her, hands now steady, not shaking. She had started humming again. It was peaceful, but it wouldn't last. That afternoon, the silence broke. A deep hum filled the air. Not thunder, not wind, a ship Big, black, slow. It hovered above the trees like a shadow with no light. A warship. Elias dropped his axe. He ran inside. Laura was already standing, gripping the edge of the table, her glowing eyes wide with fear. "They're here," she whispered. Elias grabbed the rifle from the wall. Not much, but all he had. "They won't take you," he said. "No," she said firmly. "They'll kill you. You don't understand. That ship is not for capture, it's for erasing." "What do you mean?" "They're not here to bring me back. They're here to make sure I never speak." Laura turned, opened the trapdoor under the floor. "Hide," she told him. Elias laughed once bitterly. "Not a chance. I can't lose you. You won't." They stared at each other. Then something changed in her eyes. Not fear. Fire. "I won't run anymore," she said. "Not from them." They stepped outside together. Snow fell slowly around them. The ship began to land in the clearing beyond the trees. Metal touched ice. Steam rose. Doors hissed open. 3 tall, masked soldiers stepped out. Just like before. Only, this time, one of them held a weapon already drawn. Laura stepped forward. "I am Laurentai Veldakari," she said, voice strong, "and I am not your slave." One of the soldiers stopped. "You are marked for erasure. You'll have to fight," she said, "and I'm not alone." Elias stood beside her, rifle ready. Silence. Then, one of the soldiers removed their mask. It was a woman, eyes cold, alien, calculating. "You should have stayed hidden, princess." "I did," Laura replied, "but someone made me feel human again." The soldier raised her weapon. Elias fired first. The shot missed, but it was enough. Laura leapt toward the trees, drawing the soldier away. She moved fast, so fast it shocked Elias. She'd been hiding strength this whole time. She dodged, she rolled, she kicked one soldier down. Elias fired again. This time, he hit the ship's scanner. Sparks flew. One soldier screamed and fell. Only one remained, the masked one. He charged Laura. She didn't run. She spun around and grabbed the sharp fire poker from beside the cabin. With a cry, she swung it hard. The last soldier fell, groaning. It was over. The ship sparked, then exploded. Fire and light rose into the sky. Elias stood still, breathing hard. Laura walked back slowly. Her arm was bleeding, but she smiled. Not big, not perfect, but free. Later, Elias stitched her wound. She didn't flinch. "You could leave now," he said. "They won't come again." She looked at the mountains, then at him, and shook her head. "No, this is my home now." "Are you sure?" "I don't want to hide anymore," she said. "And I don't want to be anywhere else, but here, with you." That night, she didn't sit across the fire. She sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket, leaning her head on his shoulder. Snow fell quietly outside. The stars watched in silence. And for the first time in her life, Laura was truly free.